There is a man in Fresno who has lived in a 1999 Dodge Ram van for 11 years, parked on public streets in a city that tows thousands of vehicles every single year. In all that time, his van has been towed exactly 0 times, while newer RVs and camper vans on the same blocks disappeared onto flatbeds, some of them twice in the same season. He did not choose this life. He became homeless in 2015, and the van was what he had left. And for him, a tow would not mean a bad afternoon and a fee. It would mean his home, his medication, and every photograph of his late wife locked behind a chain-link fence, gathering storage charges he could never pay until the lot sold it all at auction. So he learned the rules that homeless vehicle dwellers teach each other about never meeting a tow truck. Tonight, you get all 7 of those rules, plus the 5 mistakes that undo them, including one so ordinary you have probably made it this month without ever knowing it put your vehicle on a list. Now, you might be watching this for your own van or work truck, or because a son, a sister, or an old friend is living in a vehicle right now and you worry about them. Either way, what these people learned protects any vehicle that spends its nights at a curb. So let's start with the rule that explains why some vans survive for a decade and others vanish in a week. Number 1, beat the chalk clock. Almost every city in America has some version of the same law. A vehicle left on a public street too long, usually 72 hours, sometimes as little as 24, can be declared stored or abandoned and towed away. And the way the city counts those hours is almost charmingly old-fashioned. A parking officer marks the tire, a stripe of chalk on the rubber, a note of the valve stem position, sometimes just a photo of where the tread meets the pavement. Then he comes back days later, and if the mark has not moved, the clock has run out. The man in Fresno checks his tires every morning the way other men check their phone. A chalk line on the tire is not a punishment. It is a warning shot, and it tells him exactly how long he has. But here is the part beginners get wrong. Rolling the van forward 6 feet does not always reset that clock. Plenty of cities require the vehicle to actually travel, sometimes a set distance, sometimes off the block entirely, and officers photograph valve stems precisely to catch the 6-foot shuffle. So the veterans do not nudge. They drive. A loop around the neighborhood, a new block, a different side of the street, and the clock starts over clean. It costs them a quarter gallon of gas. It saves them their home, but the chalk clock only matters if an officer ever shows up to start it. And that leads to the rule that surprises people most. Number 2, the tow starts with a phone call. Ask the people who have lived on the street for years how a van actually ends up on a hook, and they will tell you it is almost never a patrol car cruising past and deciding to act. Cities do not have the manpower for that. The overwhelming majority of parking enforcement visits begin the same way, with a resident dialing a complaint line, which means the real judge of your van is not the officer. It is the woman watering her roses across the street. A man who spent 6 years in a Ford Econoline in Portland put it this way. He said the city never noticed him once. Neighbors noticed him every day, and his entire job was giving them nothing to say on the phone. So the veterans run a quiet code. No trash, ever, not even a coffee cup on the curb, no chairs, no grill, no gear spreading onto the sidewalk, nothing that turns a parked van into a campsite in a neighbor's eyes. Arrive after dinner, leave before breakfast, and never let anyone watch you climb into the back with a pillow. Curtains closed before dark, not after, because a complaint line does not require proof. It only requires irritation. And a van nobody thinks about is a van nobody reports. Still, even an invisible van can be towed in an hour if it is sitting under the wrong piece of metal, which brings us to the signs. Number 3, read the whole block like a contract. Drive down any city street and you will pass a forest of signs. And buried in that forest is every reason a tow truck will ever need. Street sweeping every second Tuesday. Permit parking after 6. No parking over 6 feet high. A rule written almost specifically to remove vans and RVs. And the most dangerous one of all, the temporary sign. A white paper notice zip-tied to a pole for a moving truck or a construction project, posted days after you park. The people who live in their vehicles treat signs the way a lawyer treats fine print. Before shutting off the engine, they walk the block both directions and read every pole between the corners, because a sign 80 feet away can still govern their spot. And when they return to a parked van after a day away, they check the poles again, specifically hunting for fresh paper that was not there before. One woman who spent 3 winters in a minivan in Chicago said she lost her first car, an old Buick, to a snow route she never knew existed, and after that, she could recite the parking rules of entire neighborhoods from memory. The signs decide who gets towed by the city's schedule, but there is something on your own vehicle that decides it even faster. Number 4, deny them the legal hook. Here is something tow truck drivers and parking officers both know. Towing an ordinary, legally parked vehicle is paperwork, judgment calls, and potential complaints. Towing a vehicle with expired registration is easy. In many states, tags that have been dead for more than a couple of months make a vehicle towable on site. No warning, no clock, no chalk. The expired sticker is a legal hook, and once it exists, everything else you did right stops mattering. tampering. So the veterans guard their paperwork like their lives depend on it, because in a real sense it does. Registration current, even when money is desperately short, because a renewal costs a fraction of a tow and storage bill. Plates clean, visible, and bolted on straight. Insurance card in the visor, and the vehicle itself kept free of the small defects that invite a stop or a report, a shattered windshield, a missing bumper hanging by a wire, a flat sagging into the gutter. A retired trucker who lived 4 years in a Chevy G20 said he knew men who slept in $50,000 rigs and lost them over a $40 renewal they kept putting off. The city does not need your van to be a problem. It only needs one line on it to be out of order. And that connects to something subtler, because even perfect paperwork cannot save a van that looks like nobody owns it. Number 5. Look driven, not stored. Abandoned vehicle reports are one of the most common complaints a city receives, and the people filing them are not detectives. They judge by a handful of visual cues. Dust thick enough to write in, leaves and pine needles collecting under the tires and piling in the wiper wells, cobwebs stretched from mirror to glass, tires going soft, a vehicle that sits in the exact same posture week after week like a ship run aground. The veterans learn to fight those cues on purpose. The van gets moved regularly even when there is nowhere to go. The windshield gets wiped, the leaves get kicked away from the tires, the pressure stays up. Some of them park slightly differently each time on the same block, nose in, then nose out, a few car lengths down, so the vehicle reads as something that comes and goes, a neighbor's van, not a Hulk. One man in Sacramento kept a rag on his dashboard for one job only, wiping the dust film off the hood every few days, because he had watched a dusty RV 2 blocks over get tagged, stickered, and hauled off in under 2 weeks. A van that looks driven belongs to someone. A van that looks stored belongs to the city. If this is the kind of practical knowledge you want showing up in your feed, take a second and hit subscribe. There is a new breakdown like this every single week. Now, everything so far has been about never attracting attention. The next rule is about what to do when attention arrives anyway. Number 6, respect the sticker, answer the knock. Sooner or later, almost every street-parked van gets its first contact. Usually it is not a tow truck. It is a bright orange or green warning sticker slapped on the glass, giving 24 or 72 hours to move. Beginners see that sticker and panic, or worse, they peel it off, throw it away, and change nothing, as if removing the paper removed the deadline. The veterans treat the sticker like a gift, because it is the one moment the system tells you exactly what it plans to do and exactly how long you have. They photograph it, note the time, and make sure the van travels well before the deadline, to a genuinely different location, not the other side of the same street. And when the contact is a knock on the door instead of a sticker, they answer it, calm and polite, because in most places a tow crew will not, and often legally cannot, hook a vehicle with a person inside it. An occupied van gets a conversation. An empty van gets a chain. And the strongest version of this rule is played before any officer ever arrives. Permission. A quiet agreement with a business owner, a church, a night manager, sometimes traded for keeping an eye on the property. One woman in Tucson kept a handwritten note on her dashboard with a name and a phone number, parked with permission of the owner, and she said that little index card had turned away more tow trucks than any law ever written. Which raises the obvious question: where do you find places like that? Number 7, know your safe harbors. The people who never get towed are not scattered randomly around a city. They hold a mental map built over years and traded like currency of the places where a parked van is expected, tolerated, or simply invisible. Lots attached to 24-hour businesses where cars come and go all night and one more van means nothing. Hospital visitor areas where a vehicle sitting overnight tells a story nobody wants to question. Truck stops, casino lots in some states, and certain big box stores that still allow overnight parking, though fewer every year, which is why the veterans never assume. They walk in and ask, or they make one phone call ahead, because 30 seconds of asking has saved more vans than every gadget ever sold. Industrial streets that empty out at 5 p.m. and belong to no one until morning. And increasingly, official safe parking programs, church lots and city lots in a growing number of towns where vehicle dwellers can park legally overnight. The map is the asset. A man who lived 8 years across 3 states said he could arrive in a strange city at midnight and be safely parked by 12:30, because the first thing he ever learned in a new town was not where to eat. It was where a van gets left alone. Now, before we get to the 5 mistakes, I need to be straight with you about something. These 7 rules keep a van off the hook, but they are only one corner of what long-term vehicle dwellers actually know. The other corner is the money, how they cut their insurance costs down to a fraction of what most drivers pay, the registration strategies that keep them legal for less, and the gray area workarounds they only trade with each other, because some of it I simply cannot walk through openly on YouTube. So I put all of it into a guide called the Van Life Savings Manual. Whether you are considering van life, already living it, or you are watching this for someone you care about who is out there in a vehicle tonight, that is where the full version lives. The link link is in the description below, or just scan the QR code on your screen. Now, the 5 mistakes. And the first one is the ordinary one I warned you about at the start. Mistake number 1, the glove box ticket. You came out one morning and found a parking ticket under the wiper. Annoying, but small. So it went into the glove box with the napkins and the receipts, half forgotten by Friday. You have probably done some version of this within the last month. Here's what almost nobody realizes. In most cities, unpaid parking tickets do not stay separate little problems. They stack, and at a threshold as low as 3 or 5, your plate goes onto a tow and boot list. And the modern part is what makes it dangerous. Enforcement vehicles and even some tow trucks now carry automatic license plate readers, cameras that scan every plate they pass, thousands an hour, and the moment yours matches the list, that truck stops. You are not being hunted. You are being scanned constantly, and the glove box does not hide you from a camera. The veterans treat a ticket like a live wire. Paid immediately if possible, contested immediately if not, because a hearing freezes the clock, and many cities quietly cut payment plans or reduce fines for people who show up and ask. A ticket handled is $20 or $40. A ticket forgotten is a flatbed with your bedroom on it. Mistake number 2, the last few inches. Nobody plans to block a fire hydrant. They plan to park near one, close enough that the bumper sits 12 feet away instead of the legal 15, on a street where every legal spot was taken. And nobody plans to block a driveway. Their rear bumper just overhangs the edge of one by the width of a boot. Here is the brutal part. These are the tows that happen with no warning sticker, no chalk, no 72 hours, because a hydrant tow is treated as a safety issue and a driveway tow happens the moment the homeowner calls, and homeowners call fast. The veterans measure with their eyes like carpenters, 5 long paces from a hydrant, daylight visible between their bumper and the driveway cut, full clearance from the painted curb, the crosswalk lines, the wheelchair ramp, because the city forgives a van that bends the vibe of a street. It does not forgive a van that touches the wrong 6 inches of it. Mistake number 3, fighting the hook instead of asking for the drops. Someday you may walk out and see it happening, a truck backed up to your van, chains going on, and the instinct that ruins everything is anger, shouting at the driver, grabbing the door handle, standing behind the truck. Men have gone to jail over a tow that was not even legal. The veterans know something most owners do not. In many states, if you arrive before your vehicle is fully hooked and on the truck, the driver is required to release it on the spot, sometimes for a modest drop fee, sometimes for free. But that right belongs to the calm person who asks for it, not the furious person the driver can claim felt threatening. So the move is simple. Walk up steady, phone recording, and say the words. "That is my vehicle. I am here. I am asking you to drop it." Then get the driver's company name and the ordinance he is towing under. Because if the paperwork is shaky, that recording just became worth every penny of the tow. The van is won with a sentence, not a shoving match. Mistake number 4, trusting the private lot. This one catches people precisely because everything looks safe. A shopping plaza at 9 p.m., plenty of empty spaces, you will only be gone 30 minutes. What you cannot see is that some private lots are patrolled by tow companies working on volume, and a few use spotters, people paid to phone in any vehicle the moment its driver walks off the property. There are documented cases of cars hooked in under 10 minutes. The tiny sign at the lot entrance, the one nobody reads, is the entire contract, and by parking, you agreed to it. The people who live in vehicles read that sign the way rule number 3 taught them to read street poles. Every word. Every time. And when the sign is missing, faded, or vague, they still assume the lot is hostile until a human with authority says otherwise, which is why Rule 6, permission, exists. On private property, a manager's blessing outranks every sign in the lot. Without it, you are not parking. You are gambling with your house. Mistake number 5, waiting to get it back. And this is the one that breaks people, because the tow itself is survivable. What destroys vehicle dwellers is the week after. Storage lots charge by the day, often more per day than the van owner spends on food, and the meter starts the moment the chains touch. Wait 5 days to deal with it, and the bill may already be out of reach. And after 30 days in many states, the lot can file a lien and sell the vehicle, home, tools, photographs, and all. The veterans move within hours, not days. Call the police non-emergency line first, because they log every tow and can tell you exactly which lot has it. Go the same day, even without the money, because in most states, you have the legal right to retrieve your personal belongings, medication, documents, and valuables from the vehicle regardless of what you owe, and ask plainly about hardship reductions and payment arrangements, because some lots and cities offer them and advertise nothing. A towed van is a problem. A towed van ignored for a week is a home lost forever, one storage day at a time. And when you step back, all 12 of these collapse into one idea. A tow needs a reason, and every reason is visible before the truck ever arrives. The chalk on the tire, the annoyed neighbor, the fresh paper on the pole, the dead tag, the dust, the ignored sticker, the ticket in the glove box. The people who figured this out were were not lawyers. Most of them never chose this life. They simply could not afford to lose the one roof it left them. And what they learned about how vehicles get chosen and how easily that choice can be steered somewhere else is worth knowing whether you ever spend a night in a van or not. The Van Life Savings Manual is waiting in the description whenever you want the rest of their playbook. And on your screen right now is the companion to this video, the 7 rules those same vehicle dwellers use to keep thieves from ever choosing their van. Tonight you learned how they beat the tow truck. That one shows you how they beat the man walking the row of cars at midnight. Go watch it.